You're listening to the Certified Personal Trainer Podcast, a show by personal trainers for personal trainers. It's time to become a better trainer, get more clients, and change more lives. And now, here's your host, the head coach and founder of Fitness Mentors, Eddie Lester.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Eddie Lester, the head instructor here at Fitness Mentors. And we are on to podcast number 2, in which we're going to be talking all about a client care process. So really kind of developing your own way to care for your clients, not only while you're with them, working out with them, but also, what happens the other 23 hours that can really assist them with achieving their goals and really helping with your professionalism and really just developing that great client retention that trainers are looking for. So before we get into that, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you guys that checked out our first podcast. The messages I received were extremely heartwarming, so much support. I think we had over 1,000 views within the first 24 hours. So all of you out there, I just want to say hi. Thanks for joining us again. And now it's time to introduce our guest of the day. This is going to be our first guest on our podcast, and I'm really excited to introduce David Pitts. I've been following his career for a while and actually have more recently become friends with him, and just really wanted to bring him on to talk about, his client care process, how we developed it, and I just want to send it over to him to kind of introduce yourself and kind of go from there. So let's do it.
Eddie, man, I appreciate it, and what an honor to be your first guest on the podcast, man. This is fantastic. For your listeners who are unfamiliar with my career and my presence in the fitness space, my career started like many. I was going to school up in Oregon playing football, and during the off season, I was trying to find ways of making money, and I was fascinated with exercise and helping people. So naturally, I gravitated toward looking into getting certified and becoming a certified personal trainer. So that's what I did, and I'll give you the cliff notes now. We can go into a deep dive if necessary, but I got certified while in college, training part-time, and then my career evolved. I ended up at a full-time position at a big box gym, eventually managing a team of 18 trainers for nearly a decade before going off and starting and opening my own studio. All of this gave me the experience and knowledge to really put that stuff together and build a technology to better serve our industry, which is what I'm doing with Off Day Trainer now. This is my full-time thing now. I'm running the technology to help better serve trainers and their clients. I'm speaking on stages across the country. I'm published art. Writer and different articles, doing a lot, man. And it's been a wild ride. I got the highs and lows as much as anybody, but I'll tell you what, it's all been well worth it. It's truly my passion.
Awesome. And, just kind of starting off, I always want to introduce our guests by finding out something, that really makes you human. And, really kind of allows you to open up, because one of the main purposes of this podcast is to not only grow in our careers, but also to grow in just our daily lives, in our relationships, and all aspects, just to become better people and things like that. So I want to put you on the spot, and I want you to tell us something that only your wife knows.
Oh man, this is good. This could go in all sorts of directions here. But here's an interesting little tidbit about me that not a lot of people know, and I'm not sure even my wife knows this.
There you go. All right. So nobody knows this.
You
guys are getting the insight right now. Yeah.
It's just before her time, right? So I used to claim fame to being the #1 Halo player in the world. I wasn't. But here's the story. When I was playing football and in college, this was in the early mid 2000s, and Halo was the thing, right? So my buddy and I, my buddies and I, we would link up all the Xboxes in different rooms throughout the house, and we would play. And it got to the point where we were playing so much and we were good enough. I'm not bragging here by any means, but I became like the guy in our group. And then some of the guys in our group would go play in these tournaments, and like the worst guys in our group would dominate these tournaments. And then I would joke like, I'm the best in California, right? And then when I moved to Oregon, it became a thing. When I went to play Oregon, it became a thing. And then so everyone would challenge me and I would beat everyone. So then I would claim to be the best in Oregon. It's really stupid. But my point being, I had a real obsession with Halo, the video game.
Awesome.
And the funny takeaway here with that story is, to this day, I don't own a single video game console. I don't even allow them in our house because I have better things to do with my time. I have a family to take care of. I have businesses to run.
Yeah.
But that's funny.
I love it. I love it. Actually, I was the exact same way. I was never good, but I've spent way too many hours as a teenager playing Halo for sure.
Yeah, love it.
Cool, awesome, man. Cool. Nice. Well, yeah. Let's get into the talk. For those of you listening, you got a little piece there about David. Maybe you play some video games too, but maybe you should challenge him. Reach out to him. And, he's probably still got it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I guess my first question that I really wanted to kind of start with is, how did you, when getting into personal training and kind of getting into the industry, how did you evolve with like caring for your clients? Where did you start, and what did you learn in the beginning that really kind of allowed you to progress and just kind of care for your clients in that sense?
Yeah, well, it's actually really interesting. And I think a lot of your listeners might be able to relate to this, but I grew up being incredibly active as a child, right? I was involved in many sports. I was always outside playing, surfing, skateboarding, doing whatever I could. I was a very active person, very active kid growing up. So in a sense, I just kind of assumed everybody was, and then when I started training people, I quickly realized that I'm actually a little more unique. We as fit pros, we as trainers are much more unique than we realize early on. We're actually a small percentage of the population who are obsessed with this whole health and fitness thing. And so for me, that was a huge eye opener. And I had a client one time, and I won't get into the weeds of the story here, but I did have a client who was somebody who had never exercised her whole life. She hardly spoke English. She was from Hungary. She told me in their country they didn't have PE in school, all this stuff. She just grew up. She was 56 years old. She moved here as a single mother with her son to kind of provide a better life for him, right? And when her and I first met, she was telling me she was actually quite rude. Her son bought personal training with me as a Christmas gift for her against her will. She literally told me in that session, man, it was brutal. She told me that she didn't want to be there. She goes, I don't like exercise. She goes, we didn't do any of this, right? Like the only reason I'm here is because my son spent so much money, on the personal training package. And she kind of rolled her eyes, and I'm like, oh, dang, this
will be fun, right? Yeah.
But what was ironic about this story is what seemed like the worst session I ever had ultimately evolved into a career changing experience for me. I mean, really, she became one of my favorite clients of all time. Awesome. And what happened, her name was Gabriella. What happened with Gabriella is she would train late at night, 8:30 at night. And, I would get in early, 5, 6 in the morning. I was working long days. So she was always the last client of the day. And with her, she was very consistent. She was never late. She didn't know what the heck she was doing, but she always tried, right? She did whatever I asked her. We could hardly understand each other. So there wasn't a lot of talking in sessions like, that is so common in our industry to get lost in conversation. And that wasn't happening with her. So long story short, she ended up experiencing tremendous results.
Awesome.
Tremendous results. She lost over 60 pounds. Wow. She put on a ton of muscle. She just got really fit. And I'll never forget one night she showed up late to a session. And again, she was never late. So it was kind of weird. And she came up the stairs to the gym floor. and I could tell that she had been crying. And I go, Gabriella, is everything okay? And she goes, hi, David. Yeah, I'm fine. Can I talk to you in private? And I go, of course. So we go in the fitness office and we sit down, and she begins to tell me her story about, how she immigrated here 30 years prior with no money, just her and her son. He was just a baby and they didn't have a house. She was sleeping on the streets. She was telling me her stories of having to dig through dumpsters to find clothes and food, and working 3 jobs most of her life just to survive. Like a really, really empowering, inspiring story. And she goes on to tell me that it was her life's mission to provide a greater opportunity for her son than what she had back home. And apparently, I didn't know, but apparently it was her birthday, and the day before. And so the day of our session, they were having a little surprise party the day after or something like that. So she had a bunch of friends and family over, and they were all celebrating her. And a big part of the party was all about her success and her transformation. So she shows up late to my session. She's telling me all of this. And she says, I spent my whole life trying to provide a better world, a better life for my son. And I realized tonight that it's him who has provided a better world, a better life for me, because he introduced me to you. And my jaw hit the floor, man. I'm like, holy smokes, this is crazy. Now, understanding at the time, I was a young guy. I was, maybe 25 years old, still somewhat raw, new to the industry. And I was still of the mindset that I couldn't really understand why people would pay me money to help them work out, right? This was something I'm like, man, people are paying me $45 a session. This is crazy, hundreds of dollars a month.
No, just to interrupt you, I know a ton of our listeners are battling with self-worth, and
yes,
that's a huge topic, when we start to think about starting off in this industry. So continue.
It's so big, man. And for a couple of years up until this point, I remember my boss, the GM at this club, was like, man, you're worth so much more than you give yourself credit for. And I'm like, yeah, I know it. I know. But, in the back of my head, I'm like, this is crazy, right? I do this stuff. This is nothing. And so it was this moment that I really recognized, holy smokes, I've actually really helped change this woman's life. When she said those words, man, it gave me chills down my arms, and
I just got chills right now. That's awesome.
I'm just like, holy smokes, this is so much more than I ever thought it was. And it's interesting because it was that moment when I thought to myself, this is what I was meant to do. Not necessarily because I was good or I wasn't the best per se, right? I just genuinely enjoyed
the feeling, that emotion,
experience, man. Her saying that to me was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had, and I felt so fulfilled. That's awesome. So in that moment, I told myself, she laughed after our session, whatever. It was a great experience. But I remember thinking to myself, man, I have to create this experience for every human I interact with, whether it's an extreme transformation or they just want to lose 10 pounds to fit in a dress and that they're in a wedding, I completely understood all of the sudden, and I was addicted, man. I drank the Kool-Aid and I wanted more of it. So I vowed to myself from that point on, I'm going to treat every client like they're my only client. And you never know who these people are at first and what they're going through. You don't know how many times they've tried to achieve their goals and failed, and you don't know their struggles and all this stuff. So I became more open-minded.
That's awesome.
It really changed everything for me, because all of a sudden now it wasn't something I'm just doing until I figure out what the heck I'm going to do with my life. It was this is what the heck I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to make it awesome.
And actually kind of talking about that plays in a lot to what we talked about on podcast number 1, which was really, your purpose. And a lot of us as trainers, think that your purpose is to help people achieve these goals and that sort of thing. But when it comes down to as individuals, as people, there's so much purpose that happens when interacting and helping your clients. And that's a great story that plays right into that. And actually that's going to be a quick little time for me to ask you, in podcast number 1, we talked about core values and how we use these to kind of guide our purpose. And, when we run into trouble in our careers or in our lives, you know, what do we fall back on that determines our direction? So I'm going to put you on the spot really quick and ask you, you know, what are your core values as an individual? We'll go with.
I try to be a man of integrity. You know, I try to do the right thing, whether someone's watching me or not. You know, it's not about the recognition. It's about being a good human. You know, I always say, you know, it's so much more important to me to care about my character opposed to my reputation, right? My reputation is merely what people think of me, but my character is who I truly am.
Awesome.
And that's what I strive to do. My wife jokes, you know, because I'm constantly talking about my funeral. And she's like, what the heck? I've never seen anyone talk about their funeral so much. And for me, it's not about, you know, not being here anymore, but it's more about the legacy, right? Like I always think to myself, like, who's going to be at my funeral and what are they going to say? And I want to be somebody that when my time is here, you know, I actually made an impact on people's lives for the better. And in regard to just my morals, my vision as a man, like that's what I strive to live every day. And I also try to bring a similar approach to my business. And I think that's why I got into this industry. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that can relate. You know, I didn't go get certified to become a trainer because I wanted to be a multimillionaire. I actually don't have a ton of interest in that, to be honest. But where my interest lies and my passion lies is truly creating impact in as many humans as I can. You know, awesome. I want somebody to look at me and say, because of you, I'm a better person, right? To me, that's everything.
That's awesome. That's deep. That's to the heart right there. I love that thinking of your funeral and kind of that sort of perspective on you know, just the way that we live our lives and things like that. So that is awesome. Nailed 2 on the spot questions right there. So.
2 for 2, huh?
Awesome. Well, now kind of getting maybe a bit more into the details around client care and what you do. So, you know, a lot of our listeners are really they might be newer to personal training. They might be still developing their sort of we'll say, in a way, a client care checklist. In a lot of our courses, that's one of the things, especially the ones that are more geared towards starting your own business. You know, what is your client care checklist? Like if you were to label maybe a few things that you get your client and you're moving to the next steps to assist them in achieving their goals, you know, more of that perspective. What do you think your kind of client checklist would consist of?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because I think in our industry, people tend to focus so much on client results, which is a great thing. But I'm somebody who actually puts one variable of running a business and personal training above results. And I call it the experience, right? So I'm somebody who says, if there's one thing more important than your client results, it's their experience. And what I mean by this is there's been so many times over the years, and man, I got certified to train in 2002. So we're going on 18 years here. So I've got years of experience here. And I can't tell you how frustrated I would get early on in my career when I felt like I cared more about my client results than they did, right? You know, they would invest, of course they want to achieve stuff, but if they weren't staying disciplined outside of my sessions, it would drive me nuts. And I'd be like, how, you know, if they weren't progressing toward achieving their goals like we had planned, you know, it would drive me nuts. And then there were some clients who would get really frustrated with their lack of progress or lack of discipline. And there were other clients who just kind of like, I don't really care. Like, I just like coming to work out with you because I don't like working out on my own. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is crazy, right? So that was a big aha moment for me. And then I just started learning, man, like I had my manager at that time literally had a client who had been paying him for like 6 years to come to the gym twice a week. And they wouldn't even work out in the gym. They would just go for a walk around the block that the gym was on and come back and stretch. And that was it. It was a half-hour session. And they were doing that for years. And I'm like, how is somebody paying for this? And he goes, well, she loves talking to me and she wouldn't be walking on her own. She wouldn't be stretching on her own. So it makes her feel better. And it was wow, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So going back to, again, not really understanding who your clients are and being open-minded on this stuff is important. But I'm somebody who always says that we have this unique opportunity to be the best part of somebody's day. So I approach every session like I don't know what this person's going through right now in their life, but I can really bring, an hour or a half hour, whatever it is, of light into their life. So results are what your clients are paying you for. They're going to stay with you for the experience. Okay. Right. Yeah. So somebody's going to buy 24 sessions with you because they want to lose 20 pounds or whatever it is, but they might lose that weight within, the program, maybe 6-month sessions or whatever. And if you want them to renew, you got to deliver more than results. You got to deliver an experience. So I obsess with these things in my day-to-day operations, know, and if you want a checklist, right?
Yeah. Tell me about your experience. I'm excited to hear about that. Yeah.
Don't ever be late. First and foremost, don't ever be late. Don't cancel sessions. I know life happens and it does happen, but if make it a priority, right? It should never be just the norm to reschedule clients, because you guys are working together to mesh your schedules. And if you're late or if you're constantly moving around your schedule, you're creating a narrative that the inconsistency is okay. And if we want success from our clients, they can't do it without consistency, right? So what kind of message are we really demonstrating here if we're not, practicing what we preach? If we're constantly showing up late, 5 minutes late, if we're constantly rearranging our schedule, then it's hard for anyone to be consistent, and that's the wrong message to deliver. Also, energy in sessions, man, and be incredibly present. Don't be in a session checking your text messages or looking at your phone or I sometimes go work out of town and I'll see trainers like fixing their hair in the mirror while training with the client, and it, they're like not really present. They're kind of counting reps like on autopilot. They're looking at all this other stuff, man. And that's not okay. To me, I think you need to bring a certain level of professionalism to every single session, and certainly presence. You want to be present in the moment. You want to be engaged with that individual, whether you're counting reps or giving them a high five or correcting their technique, whatever it is, man. I think it's important to stay engaged. And when you do this the right way, it's actually incredibly taxing in regards to energy, because you're just giving. But that's what we signed up for, man. That's the nature of the beast is that we're giving so much of what we have. So another thing that I constantly recommend is setting a schedule that allows you to approach your sessions, approach your business in this way. Right. So oftentimes I'll see trainers who book a 6-hour block of training sessions in a morning, and then 3, 4, 5 hours in, they're a zombie, they're hungry, they're not really paying attention. So split that up, man. 4 hours in a row of just giving is a lot. A lot. So I wouldn't recommend going more than that unless it's in a rare occasion and it needs to be done. But just really always bring that professionalism, bring your passion for the industry, your passion for helping people to every single session. Awesome.
So that scheduling tip is awesome, because I totally remember the days of going for 6 straight hours, because from 5 or 6 a.m. to noon, those were my clients' availability, and just being like, you're right. By that 3rd or 4th hour, you're already starting to bog down, and trying to bring that energy is definitely difficult. So that's a great tip.
Absolutely.
And then what about when you're not with your clients? Like what helped Gabriella succeed in the story from earlier? Because she came in maybe not that motivated to work in general, and how did your, we'll say, outside of the session work for her?
It's funny that you revisit the Gabriella story, because that's actually a big part of my obsession with communicating with clients outside the session, right? So there was a certain language barrier with Gabriella, and especially
point,
early on, we
Mhm.
couldn't, she understood me pretty well, but she couldn't speak the language real well. And I had a hard time understanding her at times. So we just didn't talk a lot. She showed
Yeah.
up, it's, hey, how's it going? Let's get to
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
Bye, see you in 2 days type of thing. However, she understood the language well and she read it very well, right? So
Mhm.
what I found
Okay.
myself doing is constantly texting Gabriella,
Okay.
to make sure, whatever I wasn't delivering in a session to other clients, because
Mhm.
I usually spoke more and reviewed a little more of detailed what they were doing outside of the session
Okay.
with my clients who just, spoke as well as,
Yeah.
as we do, right?
Mhm.
So with Gabriella, I didn't have that dynamic in session. So I
Yeah.
felt the need to text her
Awesome.
quite often. So I was constantly sending her text messages, reminding her of her goals and why they're
Mhm.
important, and really just trying to influence her behavior
Mhm.
to keep her disciplined outside of the session.
Mhm.
And this is, again, like I learned so much from that experience with her. It allowed me to step back and kind of evaluate everything I was doing in my business.
Yeah.
And
Well, really quick, what were you texting her? Like, what was it? Specific times a day? What exactly were you texting her to help with her?
yeah, so it was everything from like workouts I wanted her to do on her off days. Like
Okay.
if her and I were training Tuesdays and Thursdays
Yeah.
initially, so I would send her text messages to work out Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, right?
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
think Friday, Sunday, I let her just kind of go for walks or do what she was doing.
Mhm.
I was sending her, accountability type of text messages, ensuring she was eating right. I was sending her motivational text messages,
Mhm.
whether it was me reminding her of her goal and why they're important to her. The why is such a driving force, right? In
Mhm.
regard to our motive for action. Everybody who hires a trainer, everyone who invests in a gym membership has a goal. They want to improve in some way, shape, or form. So
Mhm.
the more we can put that goal, that why in front of our clients, the more likely they're going to remain disciplined.
Mhm.
So that's a big component of really motivating your clients outside of the session. Understand their goals, right? An example of this, right? Let's say you have that female who invests in 6 months of training because she's got a wedding coming up and she's
Mhm.
freaking out because she ordered her dress 3 sizes too small, and she's been
Mhm.
trying over and over and she hasn't been able to lose the weight, and now she's freaking out, right? Well, that's an incredibly powerful why, right?
Yeah.
So when you put that in front of this woman, like she's going to be motivated. Like
Yeah.
if I send her text messages reminding her of her goal and why they're important, it's the biggest day of her life. She wants to look good. All her friends and family, obviously her fiance, like
Mhm.
it's one of the biggest days that people look forward to in their lives, right? And she wants to look her best. So
Yeah.
if I put that in front of her on a regular basis, I can actually get her to make better food choices,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
By putting a simple text in front of her, reminding her of these things. So this is what I was doing with Gabriella.
Mhm.
And I learned that it was incredibly effective. So I took a step back in my business and I looked at my clients, right? So what I was
Mhm.
saying is I had a group of clients who have these crazy results. So they made me feel like I was the greatest trainer on earth. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had another group of clients who couldn't get the results they were paying me for, no matter
Mhm.
how hard they tried. And they made me feel like I sucked at my job and I needed to pursue an alternative career path.
It gets deep. I know. I totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I would be like, man, what's the difference? I was reading psychology books, trying to figure out, I just need to learn how to speak to these people in a
Yeah.
better way. And it was actually, the answer was a lot simpler than I thought, right? The successful people did what I asked them to when I wasn't around.
Mhm.
The unsuccessful people didn't.
Mhm.
However, both groups, everybody I worked with did what they were supposed to when they were with me. So
Mhm.
during their training sessions, 2 or 3 hours a week, everybody did what was required of them, but
Mhm.
not everybody was experiencing the results they wanted.
Mhm.
So what I learned was like, I got to find a way to get these people to do what they're supposed to be doing outside of the session. And then
Mhm.
everyone I work with will be successful. So initially I was writing more emails. I was trying to connect more on social media. And of course I was texting more.
Yeah.
However, I just learned through these different, communication platforms that the only thing that worked consistently for me, whenever I sent a message, no matter where my clients were, no matter what time of day it was, if I sent them a text, they saw the message and they were able
Mhm.
to reply to it
Yeah.
immediately. And I go, man, I'm working too hard. I'm spending 45 minutes to write this email for my client, a workout to do on their off days. I got the exercises, sets, reps, rest periods. I'm putting that all in there. And then I send it to them. And then I follow up the next day in the session and I say, hey, Eddie, how was that leg workout yesterday?
Yeah.
So, what leg workout? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't work out yesterday. I was busy. I was at work all day. I'm like, dude, I spent 45 minutes on that workout. You didn't do it. And now my program, now I gotta improvise on what we're going to do today because you didn't, do that, right? Like, oh, you sent it in an email. I don't ever check my email. Or, oh, I saw the email, but I was already home with the kids, man. You know how that goes. Right.
Yeah.
So I found myself texting my clients, check your freaking email.
Text them, check your email.
Right. And then I'm like, I'm working too hard.
Right,
this is too much.
Too many steps then.
And then the light bulb in my head goes off and I'm like, look, really all I need these people to do when they're not with me is get a little sweat going, make better food choices and not get hurt. Yeah. And I'll take care of the rest, right? Yeah. So I started really simplifying what I was asking my clients to do on their off days. I would send you a text that might say, Eddie, today I want you to run 1.5 miles for time. Text back your time when you're done so I know you did it.
Yeah, okay.
And here's the thing. Even if you didn't do it, well, first of all, this drastically improved the participation of the off-day training programs that I was getting with my clients. But even if you didn't do it, I knew right then and there because you would text me, oh, shoot, David, I'm so sorry, man. I got this and this and this. I can't get it in today, but I promise I'll make it up tomorrow or whatever.
The accountability factor is huge.
The accountability's there, man. And now, whether you're achieving your goals or not, it's on you, right? Because I'm putting you in the best position to succeed and you don't have any excuses, right? Because you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing when you're with me and you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing when you're not. Right? There's no, oh, I didn't see your message or I didn't know what I was supposed to do. None of that was happening anymore. So fast forward, I'm texting my clients like crazy and I became known as the results guy for personal training in my area. Other trainers would approach me and they go, man, you got your clients on some freaking crazy diet or something?
Yeah.
Like, doing or what's your workout methodology, man? Like I can't believe like the results your clients are getting. Mine can't even eat right. So there was all this stuff going on behind the scenes, but really for me, I'm like, look, I'm just communicating with them more than anyone else. I've really figured out how to influence my client behavior outside of the session. I was obsessing over those other 23 hours a day, the other 4 or 5 days a week. And that was everything, man. That was a game changer for me. And it really improved my training business. And that was a big part of what put me in the position to open my own gym.
That's awesome.
And experience success there as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, communication just sounds like, I mean, when you think about the checklist, what are you doing on a daily basis? You're communicating. Yeah. And 100%. Specifically accountability messages or holding them to, you can give any person a program. It's just a matter of do they do it. Yeah. And that's a lot of times when we start to think about the future of personal training and how are people going to be working out, in the future? Is it on their own? Can you as the personal trainer influence that? And that's a huge thing, is just through consistent communication with the right messaging and really, creating your, we'll say process for that is huge. So
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Love that in that sense. Let's see, we're wrapping up on time wise. I guess when we start to think about, what we're doing here, what our listeners are doing here, listening to this podcast, what advice might you have for the person that's, we'll say, looking to kind of get started in the development of their client experience, like you mentioned, or get started in their, we'll say, client care checklist or something? Well, what advice do you have for that trainer that's looking to provide a better experience through client care? What kind of final advice would you give?
Yeah, it's funny. Speaking to client care, I always say, man, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Love that.
So lead your business, lead your approach with that. Be a human that's helping another human and empathize with their situation and try to show understanding and knowledge. Obviously, you know what the heck you're talking about, and you're certainly in a position to help them get where they want to go. But the human connection is invaluable, right? I'm somebody who now practically lives in the tech space, and I always say there's one thing that technology will never be able to replace, and that's human interaction. So if you want to be a trainer for a long time, if you want to open a gym, if you want to help a lot of people like so many of us out there do, we need you to connect in a real, genuine, authentic way, human to human. So go above and beyond by demonstrating how much you care about their success, and you'll create clients for life, man. That's what it is.
That.
It's not about the perfect technique on the squat or you know, all these things that we obsess over. Of course, everything's important, but nothing's more important than demonstrating to your clients how much you care about their success, and really putting that experience to the forefront of what they're doing. You know, you want to be world-class, deliver a world-class experience, provide world-class results for your clients, and everything else will take care of itself. You know, there's so many, we got the shiny object syndrome in our, so many things out there. Oh, this is going to help you make 6 figures. No, this is it. You need funnels. You need this and this and this. And the reality is, man, I talk to hundreds, if not thousands of trainers every year, and I hear their stories and what they're going through and their situations. And majority of the people I speak with, they have all the clients they need. They have all the money they need right there in front of them. They're just not serving their clients well enough, right? The average, I don't know the stats on it specifically, but off the top of my head, it's roughly like 4 to 6 months that the average trainer is working with the client. And the number should be so much greater than that, because this whole lifestyle, fitness, health journey, it's not a short-term goal. It's a long-term play, right? You're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, right? Even if you achieve your goal of losing 10 pounds, what happens when you get there? You're not going to like hang it up and be like, sweet, thanks, I'm out of here. You're going to reevaluate, you're going to reassess your situation, and you go, now that I lost 10 pounds, I want to improve some strength. Right. I want to really focus on this, I want to run a half marathon, whatever it is, you're constantly looking to improve and progress, because that's in our nature as humans. We always want to grow and get better. So make sure you understand, and that you're in this for the long game with each of your clients. Turn those 4 to 6 month contracts into 1-year contracts, 2-year contracts, 3, just create an experience, create the results. And it's not that hard to do.
That is awesome. That's great advice. And really playing on that, the kind of going back to one of Fitness Mentor's core values is the idea of growth. And when we talk about growth in for you, the listener out there, when we talk about growth, we aren't talking about the growth or just about the growth in your career. We're also talking about growth of self. Are you really making the effort to improve your own life through growth? Are you educating yourself? Are you learning more? Are you in a way kind of loving yourself more? Because the more that you can respect and love yourself, the more that you can really allow your genuine self to go out there and help other people. So I love that you really took that to that level, and that's something that we encourage, kind of really in this podcast. Is that's what it's about. It's like your career growth, but your self growth, and really just sharing what you have with your clients in the world.
Absolutely, man.
Going big picture. I love it. Awesome. Well, yeah, let's wrap this up. I just big thank you to David. That was an awesome talk. I feel like all of our listeners out there got a great set of actionable advice, as well as just some great insight into growth in general, as from starting all the way through, really learning how to care for your clients and beyond. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I do want to point out one thing that you did mention is the text messaging is a huge, we'll say, bonus to get your clients to be held accountable. And David actually is the founder of offdaytrainer.com. And guys, this type of software makes the accountability holding for your clients significantly easier. I use this to ensure that all my clients are on track. But what's great about it is that it does have automated, we'll say, or the capability to use automation to send text messages. And if you just want to do a quick brief discussion just on what Off Day Trainer is doing and how it can really help people in that sense, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the whole inspiration behind the concept of Off Day Trainer came to me when I was running my gym, my business, and I was trying to deliver that world-class experience to every single person I worked with, right? Mm-hmm. And what I learned was sending text messages, as effective as it was incredibly time-consuming and tedious, right? Yeah. And whether I had 10 clients or 1,000, it didn't matter. It was a lot, because I knew if I sent my clients text all the time, they saw greater value in my services. So I needed a way to deliver that to everybody. And that's why I was so successful. But I needed a way to automate and scale. So that's essentially what we did with Off Day Trainer. Is we created a product, a text messaging software that we've really figured out. We've done the research, we've done the case studies. We know exactly what the perfect text message is to send to a prospect once they express interest in your business. We know when to send it, we know why, and we built it into the automation. You know, there's literally like a 15-minute window you have to reply to a client who expresses interest in your business. Otherwise, you're likely to lose that person forever. But what happens when you're in one of those 2, 3, 4-hour training blocks and you can't get to your phone because you're being a professional for 2 to 4 hours? You're losing prospects. Leads are falling through the cracks. So with Off Day Trainer, we provide a system that automatically follows up with them with that perfect text, sending engaged human text messages. We also allow you to communicate with your clients to deliver the motivation and the accountability. There's automation with it. There's a real human component. We always say it's the best of both worlds in regard to automating the messaging. And the automated messages are 100% personalized. The system is smart enough to recognize who's getting the text, what their goals are, why their goals are important. And it goes into our library and pulls the perfect messages to send them. In addition to, you can communicate with them like you do from your cell phone.
Awesome. No, that's something that when we talk about, this kind of whole theme of this podcast was in a way that client experience and really, showing that your clients, that you care about them and holding them accountable and creating the checklist to do that with. And this is just a great tool to assist all trainers with, becoming, like David was, and probably is still, the results guy in his area. So, that's awesome. And like I said, I use it with all my clients just to enhance that motivation. And, maybe one day I'll become the results guy and then beat you in Halo. So
love it, man. Well, hey, Eddie, thank you so much for having me, man. It's an honor to be here. And I appreciate you. I respect the heck out of you and your team, because you lead with the same morals and character and vision that we do here. So kudos to you, man.
Awesome. Yeah. And thanks so much, guys, for checking out podcast number 2. We'll be back next week with podcast number 3. Got an exciting guest who I'm going to hold under wraps right now, but you guys are going to be pretty thrilled to hear it. So if you guys aren't following us right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, click subscribe. It'll notify you of all the upcoming podcasts, any videos that we put out. Also, we are going to be on Apple Podcasts. We just got notice of approval that they picked up our podcast as well. Spotify, Alexa, we're getting on all the major podcast we'll say directories. So, if you have your app on your phone, plug us in, subscribe. And we look forward to chatting with you and all of our guests and growing it together. So, all right, guys, I will see you next time. And kudos to Dave. Cheers. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
As always, thanks for listening to the Certified Personal Trainer Podcast. You can learn more about Fitness Mentors at fitnessmentors.com. Be sure to share this podcast on social media. And remember, we are here to help you succeed.